Hi, I'm Joe Finsternis, and before I get into tonight's review, I'd like to give a shout out to my friend who I've been corresponding with online. He calls himself Scorch Knight DJ. I don't know what his birth name is, but he told me to wish him a happy birthday today. He celebrates it on October the 2nd. And he has another YouTube channel on here, which I'm going to put a link to in the description if you're interested. He's an artist who mixes these dubstep tracks, and I know a lot of people hate dubstep. I used to hate it myself, but it's been sort of growing on me. I like the beats to some songs that I've heard, and I've listened to one of his videos, and he makes some pretty good stuff. His videos are pretty long. I think he posts entire albums on his channel, but if you're into that genre and you want to check out some dubstep, listen to it as background noise, then go ahead and check out the link. Anyway, enough ass kissing, let's get into the review. Tonight's movie is called Almost Human, and it's yet another movie about aliens. This film is basically about a guy who gets abducted by aliens, and then he gets dropped off on Earth 2 years later, and he's infected with an alien parasite which makes him go around and do bad things to people. Now, starting off, at the very beginning of this movie, there's this text on the screen which tells you that this stuff really happened back in like 1987 or whatever. And I was going to do research on this movie after watching it, but after sitting through it, I'm already going to call bullshit. I know that this stuff did not happen. One thing I will say is that the film does start off with a bang. You get this guy who's running into his friend's house, freaking the fuck out. He's seen the alien's ship and he's terrified. And the friend is kind of reacting to it as if it's nothing. I mean, this guy is clearly horrified out of his mind. Something crazy must have just happened to him, and the friend is just like, whoa, calm down, calm down. And then you get this alien cliche where there are these blue lights shining in the windows, which indicates, spaceship. And that's when the friend is like, I'm gonna get my gun. Best actor in the movie. And you get another cliche where there's this high-pitched sound that makes people put their hands over their ears and it makes their noses bleed. And then yet another cliche happens soon after the introduction where the guy gets abducted and everything. The guy who is freaking out turns out to be the main character of the film. And you get a scene where he's waking up from a nightmare and he sits up in bed. Now, I don't know how many people actually do that. Whenever I have a nightmare and I wake up with a start, this is what it looks like. Pretend that I'm lying down. I don't fucking sit up in bed right after waking from a nightmare. I have had one dream where I was sitting in bed, but I was sitting when I woke up, and I didn't wake with a start, and that was because there was some stressful stuff going on in my life at the time, but, this isn't meant to be a personal blog, so moving on from that rant. Another cool thing about the movie was that it kind of had this 80s feel to the score. You had this sort of montage where there were a lot of news interviews happening about the lights in the sky and everything, and there's this really cool pulsing music in the background. So I thought that was pretty cool. In fact, if this movie has a soundtrack available in stores, I might go ahead and pick it up. But, moving on, there's a lot of moments during the first act where they're trying to build characters, and the dialogue is boring as shit. Don't get me wrong, I have an attention span. I can watch horror movies that have a lot of dialogue and are trying to build their characters. I'm still riveted by The Walking Dead, which a few people I've talked to quit on that series a long time ago because of how dramatic it was turning. They we're getting bored by it, but I still like it. This movie just bored the shit out of me. Meanwhile, you have the alien host running around, and there's very little rhyme or reason to what he's doing. There are some people that he's taking into his basement and infecting with the parasite, and that's really where you get any special effects. You don't see any aliens in the movie. You don't see what the parasites look like. You just get this tube that comes out of the guy's mouth, and it goes into another person's mouth. Or in one case, it goes into a woman's vagina, which is kind of weird. And it doesn't even really look real, whenever you have something made of plastic or whatever that's been molded, and they did a shitty job molding it, and there's like a line down the side of it, like you get a really poorly made action figure where there's that line going down the side of their body. There was one of those lines going down the side of this tube. And, yesterday I was talking about Alien vs. Ninja, and I talked about some, errors with the plot as well as criticizing the special effects, but that was supposed to be just a cheesy, fun monster movie. Movies like that are sort of guilty pleasures for me. Almost Human isn't even so bad, it's good. I got the feeling that they were trying to make it really intense and scary, and it was just nothing. It's just really bland and generic. Some of the killing scenes, I'll admit, were kind of cool, but when there was no rhyme or reason to them, I really didn't give a shit. Like, there was one point where the alien host went up to this guy who was standing by his car and just started stabbing him in the neck over and over again. And the guy wasn't even doing anything. He wasn't posing a threat. The dude just goes up to him and fucking kills him because why not? During the last 30 minutes or so of the film, it's concentrating on like the main hero as well as the alien host's ex-wife, which I'm going to get into that as well. Somehow, even though this host guy isn't himself anymore, somehow he seems to have memories of his past. Like, he goes to his old house and finds that there are different people living there, and he kills them. And then somehow he figures out, where his ex-wife is living now, and there's no explanation as to how he or the fucking aliens know where she lives. I mean, it just makes no sense. Shit, what to talk about next? Oh yeah, the last 30 minutes where it's concentrating on those two characters, and it's still boring. There's one point where, I swear to God, you spend 5 minutes just watching the main guy going through this house looking for other alien host zombies, and there's no tension to it because I did not give a shit about the characters. There was literally nothing but fucking walking happening during 5 minutes. So, in the end, do I recommend this movie? No. By the way, I would like to point out that the cover art on this is pretty badass. I was looking forward to a really cool sort of throwback movie, but it is one of those cases where you cannot judge a film by its cover. That was the trash can, in case you're wondering. Anyway, that's all I have to say about this film. I hope you all